Hoist the Colors podcast. We are back here on a Monday night because East Carolina played a normal 3-game set. Well, they wrapped up on Sunday this time instead of Monday. And we were talking about East Carolina's successful week on the diamond. And yes, if you're watching our live stream, you can see that somebody is missing. That somebody is Jonathan Wagner. He has been removed from the podcast for multiple reasons, which we'll get into. Scott Lowerbatcher is with us. Steve and I go here. Scott, we got to see the Pirates play some good baseball, man.
We did, and we got to see them win a basketball game, so that was fun. Great to see them get back in the winning ways, winning tally marks, as they say. And yeah, it's good to see the Pirates play their brand of baseball again. Should have been 4-0, so I could be right. But.
Should have been 4-0. Should have been. So Wags, of course. All right, we'll just bring him in. We're just screwing with him. He actually is here. Jonathan Wagner. We had a running joke on Hoist the Colors because he did not watch. Did you watch? What game did you not watch?
He's muted.
And now you're muted. Well, maybe you just don't want to be here.
Saturday. It was Saturday.
So
look, I was cracking up in the start. I had to mute myself so I didn't distract Scott.
Full disclosure. By the way, we still have the worst intro music of all time now. I don't know what happened with that. My headphones also got disconnected with 3 seconds left on the live stream, so I'm not sure if I looked frantic at all, but I ended up figuring it out before we got started. So full disclosure, I did not watch Saturday's game either. I was at a neighbor's birthday party. I did have it up on Stat Broadcast. Scott Lowerbatcher, I believe you didn't really watch it either, so maybe we all need to disappear.
Yeah, I caught the first 3 innings, and then I followed along on my phone. And then by the time we were done at dinner, it was over.
Yeah, I didn't know the run rule was even in effect. So Pirates, of course, if you're unfamiliar, I'm Stephen Igo, Scott Lowerbatcher up top today, Jonathan Wagner on bottom, getting the third wheel treatment in this scenario, but wearing his Hoist the Color shirt, so looking good there. I'm wearing this. Guys, I've realized this as I came upstairs to the show. I alternate the same 2 Seattle Mariners shirts every single show. Like, you can go back and look at the archives. Like, it's basically the same. You got your Lou Piniella throwing the base shirt on, Scott. That's always a winner. So
Mariners
strong.
Legend,
Yep, absolutely. Mariners legend. He was the manager of the 116-win team back in 2001, the team that did not win the World Series somehow. All right, so let's get into just overall thoughts on the week. We always start there. We'll get into what we learned after that. So Pirates, again, they lose to UNC Monday, come back 5 baseball games in 7 days. They go 3-1. The rest of the week, we'll start with Jonathan Wagner, who did say ECU would go, I believe, 1-3. That was another reason why we wanted to kick him off the podcast. So what do you have to say, Jonathan Wagner?
Yeah, well, if having a strong 3-1 week means that I need to predict 1-3 every week, then I'll step up to the plate. I'll keep getting kicked off every week. But yeah, I mean, it caught me by surprise, honestly, because again, first things first with the ODU game, I didn't have a good feeling going into it. And I thought the bullpen would have been tired, and you didn't end up needing a lot of the bullpen in that game. So you really got out there. The offense came out strong. You started the week off on a high note, and man, then the roller coaster that Friday was, and you start off and Ethan Norby looks so good. And then he comes out for that last inning, and I believe it was the 7th inning was his last inning. And, he gave up a couple base runners, and then the wheels fell off and from the whole bullpen that game. And it was one of those frustrating offensive performances where they put up some runs, but it felt like they could have done a lot more. And just overall, Friday was just such a frustrating game because, once Kent State kind of struck first, and we were talking about this, I kind of thought oh boy, here we go again, because I wasn't confident in the offense on that day because they didn't look very good. And, then you end up losing the game, but you come back on Saturday, and funnily enough, I was at the Canes game on Saturday, and the one goal the Canes scored, I was in the bathroom. So I never go to the bathroom during games, but I had to. So I missed the only Canes goal. So I'm like, I'm never going to hear the end of this. And you come out, you get a big win on Saturday. Sean Jenkins, from what it looked like, that was a Sean Jenkins performance we've all been waiting on. And then, you end it Sunday with a win against a good Virginia Tech team too. So caught me by surprise a little bit, but they looked a lot better this week. And the pitching looked better. Offense looked better. It was a good week, and hopefully it's just the start, because I think you really need to keep setting the tone and having weeks like that moving forward.
Scott Lohrbatcher, your overall thoughts on the Pirates' 3-1 week?
Yeah, I thought the starting pitching performed really well, and including, if you count Winter as an opener on Sunday, and then the performance of Ethan Young yesterday was really phenomenal. I thought, whoever went the extended amount in the game did a great job all weekend. It really should have been a 4-0 week. You had so many opportunities to win that Kent State game and just didn't do it. And that's baseball type thing. I know a lot of people hate when we say that, but that, a ball bounces the right way, you win that baseball game, you're 4-0 and you feel a lot better. And in all honesty, going 3-1, beating probably the three best teams you played and losing to the worst team somehow feels a little bit better than had we gone 3-1 and maybe lost to Virginia Tech, who is probably a borderline tournament team, bubble team type program right now. So, who knows how the rest of the season plays out, but that gives you a win over maybe one of those teams that's a next 4 in, next 4 out type team. So that's always a good thing. And things are only going to get tougher from here this week because Coastal did move into the top 25 this morning.
Yeah, Coastal really good, and I've been texting with some people in the industry, and we'll get into them a little bit. But definite top 25 caliber team, considered an Omaha sleeper talent-wise, and we'll get into that later. I thought, I agree with y'all. I mean, look, the Kent State game was a loss, and at the time, it was one of those like, all right, you lose this game in this fashion. If the weekend gets away from you, the season, let's be honest, could really start to get away from you. I mean, you can only dig yourself so much of a hole. And the Kent State game, I think we all kind of considered a must-win just because of how good we thought Indiana State was. Maybe they just aren't very good. They go 0-3 on the week, but certainly Virginia Tech. But I'm with you, man. Like, watching the game, ECU looked like the better team for 8.5 innings. It just happened that in that top of the 7th inning, Brad Pruitt had an off game. He hung a couple hanging sliders that were hit a long way. And then Beschloss gave up the go-ahead home run. But even that looked like a fly ball off the bat, and I thought we were going to catch it at the wall. It just didn't happen. So, and then you get the double play. If you get a 3 feet the other way, then you have a game-winning hit by John Collins. So I am glad they responded from that because I thought they looked better Friday towards the end of the game. And, Norby was fantastic. We'll get into that. He's 0-2 despite pitching extremely well through 3 starts, which is frustrating. But I thought overall ECU just looked better, especially the last 4 games of this week after the 17 strikeout performance against North Carolina. So certainly trending in the right direction, but big challenges ahead. All right, guys, what did we learn in the past 4 games in the past week? Jonathan Wider, what did you learn specifically about this ECU baseball team that we're learning so much about each week?
Yeah, I'm kind of between a couple things here, but to me, this week, I think I learned that this is a tournament team, but we're going to have a lot of highs and we're going to have a lot of lows. I don't expect that to end at all this season, but I think this week it regained that confidence in me. I think coming into the week, it was kind of this is your set your tone week. This is where you're going to tell everyone, is this a team that's going to go on a run, make a tournament, and I think right now that's probably the guideline that we're shooting for, just making the tournament. And to me, this set it in stone. Like, yes, this is a tournament caliber team and the talent is there. The pitching is very good. It's not perfect, but the pitching is good enough to itself carry you to the postseason and through the American. And then the offense, I mean, you have Dixon Williams, who he heated up a little bit. You needed him to heat up like he did. And you need other guys around him. And I think, like I said, there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows. And I think we're going to see that every week with this lineup. I mean, Alex Peltier in the leadoff spot, he's looked really good at times. He had a little bit of a down week. Colby Wallace had a better week after starting off really slow. Austin Irby got better this week. So the pieces are in place. It's just I think you're going to continue to see a lot of tinkering and a lot of movement within the lineup, and at least in the order. And I will clarify, I am talking about this team is currently constructed. So I think the team that we saw this week is capable of getting to the postseason. And if you get some of those guys who are injured right now back, I think it's kind of icing on the cake, and they can give you a boost later on too.
Scott Lorbatcher, what did you learn?
We learned that Dixon Williams is the real deal. I think you see Dixon Williams is finally starting to thrive in that role as the middle of the lineup, best hitter on the team guy. And it took a couple games and it took a couple changes, but he's there now. I mean, you saw him get intentionally walked this weekend. I think it's the only intentional walk that we've had this year. And teams are going to start pitching around him. So now the other thing we learned is somebody else is going to have to step up behind him. It looked like Irby was that guy at times. Like Colby Wallace had started to come around and kind of really took a step back in the Virginia Tech game. But a lot of our hitters did against their second pitcher, Williams. He looked really good against us. And he caused a lot of problems. So it's going to have to be somebody. John Collins has looked really good at times. But somebody else needs to provide offense consistently for this team to be successful offensively.
Yeah, I think we had this discussion pre-show with if you're an opposing team right now, Dixon Williams is the one guy you're marking. Hey, we can't let him beat us. I mean, like, no disrespect to the other guys in the lineup. They have the potential to be that guy, but right now they're not. I mean, Austin Irby could be that guy. Colby Wallace could be that guy. You know, Alex Boucher has immense power, but can he make consistent enough contact to be that guy? You know, right now there's just not that dude in the lineup. John Collins, same type of deal as Boucher. You know, big swing, big power. Can he be consistent enough? JPN 12-12 to adds that Dixon needs some protection, or he will get more intentional free passes, as we saw this past weekend. Yeah, I learned, guys, that look, Ethan Young and Brad Pruitt, right now they're going to be, all right, we're in a jam. We're going to these guys. And that is going to be their role. I also like that they can go multiple innings. Ethan Young now, in his last four appearances, 3 innings or more. He has given up just one run over that 13-inning span. Pitched really well against Old Dominion, pitched really well against Virginia Tech. Brad Pruitt, I know that he did not have a good game against Kent State. I thought he was a little overworked in the North Carolina game, and I think that showed a little bit in the Kent State game. But you look at his strikeout numbers, 24 strikeouts in 12 innings. If he's in the zone, he's pretty unhittable. Slider to righties, splitter to lefties. I mean, he has got pitches for both sides of the plate. Those two guys are going to be your anchors on the back end. We also learned, actually, let me get this stat from Johnny Stats. Ethan Young recorded 9 strikeouts this week, 6 of them in 4 pitches or less. We also learned, guys, that as Scott Lorbatcher tweeted, the swagger might be back. Michael Kalinic is like he's one of those guys, and I said it in the Hoisted Colors VIP chat today, freshman catcher / DH. First off, I really like him as a player. He's got a chance to be a really good hitter. Haven't seen enough of him as a catcher, but you know, as a guy who's made progress behind the plate. He's one of those guys you strongly dislike if he's not on your team because of his antics, but if he's on your team, you're all about it. You know, the whole I don't even know how to describe it. Like talking crap, although he claims he's talking it to himself as he takes a ball and he gives a little head nod, head shake. Had to get warned by the umpire. So I don't know, Wags, where do you come in on Michael Kalinic thus far?
I find it hilarious, first of all. But, you know, I think we texted I think it was the game in Durham, and because that was his first start. And I think that was the first time we noticed that. And, you know, every time we've seen him in a lineup, he does it every time. Maybe not to the extreme that he was this weekend, but it's every time he comes to the plate, he's tapping his chest, he's looking to the dugout, he's shaking his head, and everyone in the lineup shakes their head to an extent. but he shakes his
A lot
head.
of this happening.
Oh, yeah. And I think this weekend is when we kind of text each other, we're like, all right, like, come on now. But it reminds me of like a goaltender in the NHL. And if you guys like know hockey, if you watch hockey, you get their warm-ups and just watch a goalie go out. And before they even go and get in between the pipes, they're at center ice, they're stretching, and watch them during a TV timeout. They come out and they're just going through the motions. They're shaking their head. They're doing all this crazy stuff because they're psychos. But that's how they get in the zone. That's how they stay in the zone. And, Kalinic being a catcher by trade, it doesn't surprise me that he's kind of like that. But it reminds me of a Ryan McChrystal type of guy. I think it's to a different level because McChrystal had a little energy in the batter's box too. And Skull Pirate, this should be a hockey stream. I'd be more knowledgeable with the hockey talk, even though I know my baseball too. But yeah, he reminds me of like a Ryan McChrystal on whatever, and it's crazy. But yeah, you said it perfectly. You'll love him if he's on your team, but he's going to get a couple fastballs in the letters in between the shoulders, I think, by the time the season's over.
Your thoughts, Scott? First off, great job turning my picture into this amazing graphic. I just think it's hilarious that he's like swag. He's bringing the swag as he waves the runner from second to third base on a wild pitch. Like, it was hilarious to me. He was just like, so your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm surprised that Wags wasn't a bigger fan because it gave me big Juan Soto vibes. Just the movement in the batter's box, the kicking in the dirt that we don't have in the batter's box was fun. But yeah, we've had a team of really nice guys for the last 3 or 4 years. The Carter Cunninghams of the world, and not saying that Kalinic isn't a nice guy in his personal life, but I kind of like having a little more attitude, especially on a young team. This team needs to be cocky. They need to have confidence because they're going out there facing guys throwing 94, 95 at times. And, if you second guess yourself, you're not going to hit it. So go out there and be cocky and prove it. Now, you go out there and you do that and we get blown out 11-1, then you look dumb. So that's always the caveat is you can't do it and lose because then you look silly. But I'm all for it. And in all honesty, if he was on Virginia Tech, I would be up here talking about how much I hated it. So take that for a grain of salt. But I do think that we've needed a little bit of just an attitude and cockiness to us. I think I described him in our group chat as the villain in a 90s rom-com set at a ski lodge or something like that. But yeah, I think we need a little bit of bad guy energy, especially this year when, we don't have the national media behind us that we have in the past. We don't have all of the rankings and things going with us. We're the bad guy this year. We're here to upset everybody else's apple cart and, get our swagger back and get back in the top 25. And we're going to have to take it from somebody else. And to do that, you're going to have a little bit of cockiness.
I can see a lot of cockiness on display with Coastal Carolina and ECU this weekend. That's how Coastal always is, so I would expect a lot of that. Plus, you got some – go ahead.
I do want to add on Kalinic, too. I think kind of back to what I said, as a catcher, to this point, we've seen Walker Barron catch every inning. So I do think it's one of those things, if Kalinic is in the lineup and he's behind the plate and, Barron's DH and giving him a breather, I think that's where you definitely need to dial it back a little bit because if you are coming to the plate and, when you're hitting, you're going through all that, it could piss – you get the wrong umpire on the wrong day, it could really piss him off. And so I think it's important as a catcher, too, you want to make sure you keep that level of respect with the umpire, especially if you are the one behind the dish. So I think that's something to watch, as the season goes on. But at the same time, Walker Barron just might catch every inning for the rest of the season.
JPN 1212 says, not a fan of his antics, too over the top for me. Wait to be cocky after the at-bat, not after every pitch. Zach Griffin says, I love it. Each team has its own personality, and this team needs some confidence and swagger. I am with you, Scott, and Zach. Like, personally, I'm not even like an old school baseball guy, but like baseball guy in general, you're just not used to seeing it. But look, if that's him and that's what leads to his confidence, then I'm all for it. And he doesn't need to be somebody he's not. If that's how he wants to do it, then I'm for it. He's a good hitter. So if it works, it works. I'm not against it or for it, I guess. I'm just dead down the middle. I'm just Mr. Neutral over here. Although, I do find it hilarious taking pictures of him coming off the field, like waving to the crowd after a sack fly. So that was pretty good. Well struck ball, though. All right, couple of questions here. Skull Pirate says, pitching-wise, have we ever been in a better situation to win a regional and a super regional this staff with last year's offense? Woo. I still say the year they went to Vandy, guys, that was like your premium arms that year. Gavin, Wisenhunt. You had Tyler Smith as your number 3. You had also Cam Colmer, Matt Bridges at the back end of the bullpen. I think there was a few more guys. So, that would be my year, even though it wasn't maybe as deep. But still too early to say for me. Your thoughts, Scott, on this question?
Yeah, I think we need to see it a little bit more and more consistently. We're talking about how great Ethan Young was these last few outings, but he also had a really bad outing against George Mason to start the year. So it's not a 3-game data point. It's a whole season. So we'll need to see it play out the rest of the way. I do think that Sean Jenkins, we haven't even talked about really how great of a performance he had against Indiana State. 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, kept his walks down from previous outings. Just a solid performance there. I think he's only going to get better. And then, obviously, we do have to find a third starter, I think, to win a regional this year. And that could be Towers, could be Antolic. We'll see how that goes. But I think our bullpen is as good as it was in 22 so far. And that team had a chance to win a super regional and got as close as you could possibly get and not do it. So we'll see.
Wags, what do you think early on in the season?
Yeah, I completely agree with Scott. I think I do think this staff could absolutely get there, but like you said, I think it's missing that front end starter that what you're getting every time. And Sean Jenkins could absolutely become that guy. But he had the best start of his career this weekend, and I think we all expect that to just be the start for him. But he's not Gavin Williams or Carson Wisenhunt, and he's not a Trey Savage type yet. I do think he's going to get to that level eventually, but ask me again this time next year, and you keep the strong nucleus of this staff together. Yeah, I think we're having a different conversation. But yeah, I do think it's the right, and it's tough to know too because the staff is so far from fully healthy. You get Antolic in there, and you get him as your first or second starter, and I think that changes the equation. Ryan Towers too. So could it get there? Yes, but I do think that the good thing about this team is if you go out there and you start Ethan Norby in game 1 of a regional, you have Sean Jenkins for game 2. It all depends on what kind of day the rest of the bullpen has, because we have seen some ups and downs. Ethan Young's your guy, Brad Pruitt's your guy, but we've also seen that I think Brad Pruitt, I do think that he did struggle this week because he was overused a little bit. And you get to the end of the season where a lot of these guys, and I think this is the most important factor, pretty much everyone on the staff, by the time we get to the end of season, it's going to be the most they've ever pitched. A lot of these guys, Antolic, Pruitt, those kind of guys who we've only started to see the beginning, those guys didn't pitch a whole lot last year. Sean Jenkins, it's his freshman year. And, a lot of these freshman guys we've seen out of the bullpen too. So I want to see them keep it up over the course of a whole season. But yeah, pure stuff wise, this team is nasty. This pitching staff is awesome when it's on, but there is still a little inconsistency, and I think it's too early.
Zach Griffin with a good comment here. Stuff and velocity-wise, I think it is the deepest staff we've had once they get healthy, but lack a Trey Savage or a Gavin Williams. Yeah, I agree. I mean, one of these guys could turn into that at this point, but you don't have a frontline, dominant starter. Now, Ethan Norby, which I want to hit on in a minute, has been really good. Just a quick health update, we did talk to Cliff Godwin on the radio show today. He did provide the information. Brett Antolik is trending back, excuse me. Should be, I think, pitching sometimes towards mid to late March. In what capacity, we don't know, but should be back likely later March. And then Ryan Tower sounds more like April return. He picked up a baseball, was going to throw today. So you're looking at getting those guys back for the stretch run, and hopefully they continue to trend, in the right direction, no setbacks. But that would be a huge boost to the staff. And guys, Ethan Norby, I mean, we've had the conversation. What do you do with Ethan Norby? And right now, I mean, these numbers: 16.2 innings, 21 strikeouts, 2 walks, 213 batting average against, 0-2, despite a .90 WHIP. So look, he's not getting much run support. I still like him in the bullpen personally because of his pitch mix. But honestly, Scott, like the way he's pitching right now, I know you kind of made the point in our group chat, like pretty hard to take him out if he keeps throwing like this.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like a frontline Friday night guy who's going to give you a chance to win every Friday night. He's going to extend into games to save guys like Ethan Young and Brad Pruitt, especially once we get to conference play. I think you could see him, and he gets stretched out to 100 pitches. You could see him go into the 7th or 8th inning, and then maybe you don't have to use Young or Pruitt on Friday. And then Jenkins goes and gives you 6+. And then on Sunday, it's just let it loose. And you get, you can go Hunter for 3, Pruitt for 3, Young for 3, and then that's the ball game. And
basically what we saw first VT.
Exactly. So, I think if Norby can give you 6 innings on Friday, that's as valuable as him giving you 5 innings throughout the week. So as long as he continues to do it, then I think run him out there every Friday night. And if he performs like this, it's going to be impossible to take him out.
Yeah, the velocity jump he's had, and then the development of his changeup. Look, he's still mostly a fastball slider guy, but as soon as I texted y'all about his changeup, then he dropped in a nasty changeup for a swing and miss versus a right-hander. So, like, the development is clearly there, Wags, which I think makes it tough. But I do think these things tend to work themselves out. Like when Antolik's coming back, when Towers is coming back, we'll see where Norby's trending then. But any thought on, just basically how Norby has pitched at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think coming into the year, and I think I still believe this, but I do believe that the best configuration of this pitching staff is with Ethan Norby in the bullpen. But, yeah, like Scott has said, like with how he's pitching, you can take him out. And I think it's important to note, too, like right now this team only has 2 starters. It is Ethan Norby and Sean Jenkins. So, we talk about when Antolik gets back. Well, cool. At first, too, he's not going to be thrown into a starting role right away. Antolik's going to come back, and he's probably going to have some, a low leverage spot or two, and he's going to throw an inning or 2 out of the bullpen, and they're going to work him up in live action before. So even if Antolik comes back in 2 weeks, I don't think it's in a starting capacity. And then you're talking a week, 2, 3 weeks, a month after that before he's probably ready to have a full-on starter's workload. So, yeah, it's tough, but it's a good problem to have. And the thing is too, if you do decide to take Ethan Norby out of the rotation once you get fully healthy, and you put him to the bullpen, it doesn't mean you got to stick that way. And if you put, say, Brad Pruitt in the rotation instead, and Pruitt has a couple weeks where he doesn't do very well in that role, you flip it back and you find out what works. Ideally, you have his rotation, you stick to it, but you're going to keep seeing it, move around right now behind Norby and behind Jenkins. And right now, those are your guys. And like Scott said, I think if you know that Norby's going to go give you 6 innings every Friday night, and right now, Jenkins, again, he was really good this weekend. But Jenkins, the outing before, he wasn't as good. And the same thing is going to be true for kind of everyone else. You don't have that guy that you can guarantee is going to go give you length in a start. So having that to set the tone on a weekend, I think it might be the most valuable thing of it all.
All right, I do want to get to a couple things here. We made a mistake, guys. We forgot to mention AI, Elon, Doge, machine learning. Cliff doesn't bunt, as Skull Pirate brings up in the comment section. So we already have 300 plus viewers, so that number will continue to grow. Cameron says the Pirates are back. Unfortunate, Clark LeClair Stadium is not. The ugly ass turf keeps looking worse each game. And Bruce Willis says the turf is growing on me. So
I can't do that this week. I can't do this week again. I can't go on another rant. I'll get too hot. It still looks stupid.
Yeah, it doesn't look great. By the way, it was cold as hell last night at the game. I had to sit outside, had to be a commoner, and it was freezing. But I got some cool pictures. Michael Hackett says, joining late, any update on Lance Williams? So Coach Godwin did say that they were being extra precautionary. He did have a little bit of forearm tightness. They had the delay with the guy who got injured, and so they decided to pull him. He said he was fine. Sounds like nothing there, but we'll keep an eye on it. All right. Any chance Skull Pirate says that Sean Jenkins stays at ECU after this year? He says trending no. Look, I don't like these discussions, but they are the reality of the situation. I think this whole team, I mean, let's be honest, guys. If this was 5 years ago, how excited would we be about the core of this team for like the next 2-3 years? I mean, and even with college sports being how it is, I feel like ECU baseball has enough of a culture and a following, even if they don't have the best NIL in the world, to keep the majority of this core together. I have no reason to believe Sean Jenkins would leave. You never know each individual situation, but I think that's the thing we got to remember too, is try and enjoy the process of this team getting better, and support them too if you can with NIL, because all this matters, Scott. Like, I feel like if this team grows throughout the year, you can keep the core together. Like, this team could be a damn good team the next few seasons.
100%. And you look at guys like Kalinich and Jenkins as what we would have been so excited about just 3 or 4 years ago, and it does make you question everything after you see a guy like Bristol Carter leave. That was a guy that we were really high on and really excited about. And it's tough, but Jenkins is a guy who left high school early to get to East Carolina. He didn't leave high school early to go to UNC. He didn't leave high school early to go to Alabama or Tennessee or wherever. So, I think it is important that we're always assessing how we distribute our NIL in a way that makes the most sense to the players that play and keeping us at a competitive advantage over our conference mates and the teams that we would consider, I think, our peers, like Coastal Carolina, NC State, UNC. Obviously they have more money than us on the whole, but we still have some NIL and we still have a decent amount to move around. So, I do wish we could work on the transfer portal in a way that makes sense for everyone and not just the SEC and the Big Ten and everyone who has just boatloads of money. But every time we have a good freshman, no matter what sport it is, this is what we're going to have to worry about from now until the NCAA figures out a way to make it make sense again. So, I wouldn't worry too much about it. If Jenkins leaves, I wish him the best and hope that he never wins another game.
Well said. And hey, you can catch Sean Jenkins 5 appearances this year on 94.3 The Game, IBX Media, giving Jenkins and a few other guys some NIL deals. So continue to support 23 Club, and it makes a difference. There's no doubt about it. All right, Bruce Willis says, where does Alex Peltier hit when Riley Johnson comes back? So somebody had asked also about a Riley Johnson update. As of this morning, from talking to Cliff, they had not gotten the MRI back. I have not heard an update since then. Sounds like it's still going to be a while, I would think. We'll try to get some clarification on that tomorrow. But I think I'll answer this first, guys. I'll give it to you. For me, Alex Peltier, I think he stays in the lineup. I think your best outfield configuration is with him in a corner spot and Riley in center. And I would probably lean towards hitting him right now towards 7, like 6, 7. I mean, he's got a little bit of pop, some speed. The swing and miss is starting to become a little bit of an issue, but again, freshman, there's going to be ups and downs. So right now, based on how he's trending towards 7, but I could see him kind of all over. I don't know what you think, Wags.
Yeah, I think if you asked me last week, it would be no question, and I would say, Riley goes back to the leadoff spot, and Peltier just drops down to 2 with Dixon behind him and Irby behind Dixon. But yeah, I do think this week you saw the swing and miss a little bit more. But if Peltier can kind of get that under wraps a little bit, I think he's a guy that he handles the bat pretty well. He's speedy, and I'm a big advocate for putting as much pressure on opposing defenses as possible. And if both guys are hitting it, then Riley Johnson and Alex Peltier at the top of your lineup, there's not many things you can do to put more pressure on a defense. So they're going to bunt. And that's another thing, we got back to ECU baseball this week a little bit at the plate, I think. And Peltier's a guy who I think can be a big part of that. So I think if he's on his game, I think he's a perfect 2-hole type of guy behind Riley to set the table a little bit for Dixon and the rest of the order.
What are your thoughts on this, Scott? Where do you see Peltier trending towards hitting?
Yeah, if you'd asked me this question last week, I would have said the 2-hole. I would have said you'd just slide everybody one spot down. You put Dixon at 3 and give him Riley and Peltier as kind of table setters, guys that can bunt for hits, guys that can move runners. Obviously, if Riley gets on, you can bunt him over with Peltier. Later in games, if people get on in front of them with no outs, you can move them over with one or the other as well. But this week, with the way that Peltier struggled against high-velocity pitching, I was a little more concerned. And, that things change. Everything with this is fluid. So I would say right now, I kind of agree with you. I go 7th or 8th to make it so that when we get past the meat of our lineup, if you need to squeeze in a run, he's the guy there. Or if you're flipping the lineup over, going towards the bottom end of the lineup, he's a guy that can get on base, that you can, steal a bag with, bunt him over, get him to 3rd, and kind of use to manufacture a run. So maybe you want him and Riley Johnson, since their games are similar, a little bit further apart in the lineup.
All right, and again, like you guys said, this time next week he could have 5, 6 hits this week, and then we'd be talking about, hey, let's bat him 2-hole right away again. So it is very fluid, and a lot depends on when Riley comes back and how it looks then. Tyler Clark says, I think we will only get better. A lot of new players. We have a lot of depth, young pitching, but hopefully the bats will help us out as the weather gets warmer. Ethan Young was impressive. He asked about Riley Johnson. We just addressed that. Zach Griffin follows up on the Sean Jenkins talk. He says the way Sean Jenkins talked about ECU, I don't see him leaving. It was the cool story he talked about with the staff here and getting in early. Bruce Willis says how much money will go towards baseball once revenue sharing starts? Not a lot, Bruce Willis. The schools can determine where the money goes where. Now, a lot of schools are going to go with, I think it's like the 75, 15, 10 model, 75% to football, 15% to men's basketball, 10% to the other sports. So not a ton. Which is why NIL needs to continue to be emphasized through the 23 club. Chuck with a good question. He says, does the NIL concerning baseball go to pay for full scholarships since players don't get a full scholarship? So that is something ECU is doing a lot of right now. Instead of giving these guys like bags of cash, they're essentially covering their expenses with the NIL, which is good. You're getting a full scholarship because baseball is not a full scholarship sport. All right. Robert says, any thoughts on BYU Saturday and 5 days later Army, which is a big conference game? AAC doing us no favors. Look, you can check my Twitter feed for all my thoughts. I think it's stupid. TV rules the day. The AAC really has very little say in this. I don't know. Scott, your thoughts on football as we transition for a second.
Next year we can play 12 games in 14 days maybe. But, players' safety should always be foremost. We added an extra bye week, a year or two ago, so that, you're not playing so many games in a row. And now we play BYU is going to be filled with 26-year-old guys, and then turn around and 5 days later play a option team in Army, which is one of the most physically demanding ways you can play football. And I just and then we go into October, we don't play a single Saturday game. We only play 2 games. I don't know. I get that TV makes a lot of these decisions, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense when you're talking about player safety to, that's what people want to watch. They want to watch the Caton Hausers of the world, the Rajay Harrises of the world, not the backup running back because our running back is banged up from the game that we played against the 28-year-olds of BYU 3 days earlier. So it's dumb. It's not about the kids, and that's what college support is. College sports is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about student athletes. And, between this, the transfer portal, we've lost our way so far on that. I just hope that one day we can get it back.
Well said, Wags. Any thoughts to add on the football front?
Yeah, I completely agree. It sucks for player safety, and I also think just in general now with 2 bye weeks in a season, I think it's stupid to have to play a short week game to begin with. So I think if you're playing a Thursday game, especially mid-season or early season like that, if it's week 1 or week 2, whatever. But it diminishes the product of the football on the field too, because you don't have a full week to game plan. You don't have a full week to install. You don't have a full week to do anything. So it's a shorter playbook probably in most cases, and you have less time to prepare and scout for your opponent. So it takes away from the overall product of the football on the field, and you're just begging for guys to get hurt. So it's stupid. I hate it, but it's never going to change because nobody cares about what they should care about anymore.
All right, there is your football talk. And, again, we'll have a ton of football talk. We'll have a schedule breakdown on the radio show this week, so make sure to tune in for that. JPN1212 says, is there a possibility we don't see Riley Johnson at all this season? I just don't think they have enough information at this point to make that call, and certainly we don't. So, I mean, I guess there is a possibility, but I just don't have enough information on what the injury is. Chuck wants to know, will Jake Hunter continue to pitch out of the pen, or will he be a starter later in the season? I mean, that's a good question. Right now, it looks like they've determined he will be out of the bullpen as he continues to be built up. I thought his stuff really ticked up in the Kent State game when he was pitching out of a jam, guys, which was good to see. Like, he hasn't looked his best on the mound yet. Like towards the end of last year, he was really throwing the crap out of the ball. And I thought he got back to that, Scott, which was good to see.
Yeah, it felt like the old Jake Hunter was back. And I still think he's most effective one time through a lineup. I think what we've seen him get into issues in the past is his stuff is great the first time through, and then the second time it's not as great, and then the third time he gets hit if he makes it that far. So I do like him out of the pen. I also like him in that Sunday opener, get you 9 batters, 10 batters, and get out of there type deal too. So I think we will continue to see him out of the pen because I think there's other guys that are better suited to serve in starting roles. But maybe he can be a Tuesday starter type as well, especially as we get deeper into the season and start having the 5-game weeks.
All right, JPN says we need to do 75% football and 25% baseball for revenue sharing. Well, JPN, are you not a Mike Schwartz fan?
Back to their bench and look at Michael Schwartz.
That's too perfect.
I had to play that.
I was waiting for it.
Wags, are you back in on the
back to their bench and look at Michael Schwartz?
You back in on basketball?
Look, I'm gonna keep it real. And on my list of sports, basketball is the lowest. I don't care about basketball as a whole, but when I am an ECU basketball fan, believe it or not, people. But after the North Alabama loss earlier in the year, I went on protest of the ECU basketball program, and I stopped watching because I was like, why would I want to go watch a product that's just going to piss me off and ruin the rest of my day, twice a week? So I stopped. And it took a lot in me not to watch some of these games lately. But for whatever reason, maybe it was a senior day, do it for RJ because RJ Felton's a dog. And I turned on this game against Charlotte. And I picked a heck of a game to get back into. And, man, I mean, look, I don't want to go too far into basketball because, again, I haven't watched most of the season. But with what Michael Schwartz has done, he's going to put together one of the best seasons we've seen in a while for ECU. So, yeah, I've changed my tune a little bit. I'm back in on him. I still have my reservations. But for now, he has deserved, a longer leash. He deserves another year. And he has earned my respect for that crap that happened against Charlotte because screw Charlotte.
Yeah, the Pirates sweep Charlotte. Good to do. Which, by the way, Skull says, please no money to basketball. Bruce Willis says, let's talk about the brawl at Minji's. First of all, it was far from a brawl. Like, if you're just talking to somebody or yelling at them, that does not constitute as a brawl. Johnny Robertson says, North Alabama has turned into a very good team. Yeah, they are 23-9. Case and Ramaley says, gosh, we're getting a lot of basketball comments. Maybe when he turns into basketball.
I'm not built for this.
Shout out Cam Hayes, best inbounder in the country. Yeah, let's don't confirm that. And
otherwise.
Yeah, Zach. And where was the comment? Somebody said that they're a Villanova basketball fan. Okay, that's fine, but why can't you cheer for ECU too, JPN? Like Villanova and ECU aren't going to cross over unless ECU makes a tournament. And Scott, we had a big problem too. There was no PD in Minji's. Is PD even alive? People were texting me like he's not even making appearances anymore.
Archer Lord Bachelor, the heir to the Lord Bachelor throne, was extremely disappointed because he was told that he was going to PD's house, and then PD wasn't home. So ECU Athletics has disappointed a 2-year-old and a 37-year-old with the cold hot dog that I had during the basketball game. But yeah, where is PD? I believe I did see ECU Athletics like tweet or put something on Instagram about potentially like hiring a PD. So maybe PD quit. Maybe the man behind the mask is no longer behind the mask, and we're missing a PD.
I can't not to cut you off, but I can confirm when I was at the Charlotte football game, the PD left in the middle of the fourth quarter. Like I was I did the same thing. I went back and I was like editing photos and writing. PD came back and was taking his gear off and left the stadium like in the middle of the fourth quarter. I'm like, this is not good.
That was deserved because if you were wearing purple during that game, you might as well have left at halftime because that was as bad as it gets. But yeah, also Archer was upset that Wooly Bull was, who he was told was PD's friend, was also not at the basketball game. So we had 2 crises on our hand. But yeah, where is PD?
I don't know. Maybe it's time for a PD redesign. Just not make them red.
I mean, it's been what?
A long time.
2007 or 8?
It's been, yeah. I just remember when he came out, he was red and he had the whitest teeth. It looked hilarious.
Oh, sunburnt PD.
Gosh. All right. Do we need to get to anything else before we look to the week ahead? Anything that we missed on, guys, that does not include
back to their bench and look at
Mike Schwartz and or ECU football and the schedule. So any other baseball notes we need to get to?
Yeah, I just want to – I think this we've talked about the offensive struggles a lot and pitching-wise some of the free bases. But to me, I think something this team needs to continue to work on is defense. And we talk about it all the time, but we need to stop having those innings where we get the 2 guys out to lead off an inning, and then we boot a ground ball that should be easy out 3, and then it spirals and it turns into a run. We need to with this team, there's a lesser margin of error, I believe. So we need to make the plays that are given to us. And so that's something I think Alex Boucher, his arm is very good at shortstop, but I want to see him continue to develop at, making the easy plays, because it feels like the easy ones sometimes, and quote unquote easy, there is no easy play, but those ones seem to be the ones that he's struggled with at times this year. So I want to see him continue to improve. And he's not the only one either. I think situational defense has been poor on this team at times. So it's one of those things this team needs to, because again, the margin of error is smaller. So, you enter weeks like this where you have teams that can't hit very well. You can't have errors or you will lose.
A couple questions here. Zach Griffin says, so the ECU hired general manager. He was also asking about our general managers becoming more prominent in college baseball. I saw College of Charleston hired the first girl general manager. Honestly, don't know a lot more than that as I did my research. Couldn't find a ton, so I think it's kind of a program by program basis, and there's not a ton of extra income or extra salary cap, I should say, or salary to spread around there. So I would not plan to see that right now, but not a bad thought. Josh Hill says, which freshman besides Sean Jenkins has impressed y'all most? We'll go quickly here. Scott, which freshman has caught your eye the most?
Now I got to remember who was a freshman.
Everybody.
We'll go Michael Kalinich. Fired me up, so there you go. And I thought he put together some really good at-bats this weekend.
Michael Kalinich, your thoughts, Wags? What freshman has impressed you?
Yeah, I'm going with Austin Irby. I think he's had some really good at-bats, and I picked him to lead the team in homers preseason. And after this week, I'm more confident that it's going to happen. It's going to be him and Dixon Williams to the end, I think. John Collins could get in there too, but I'm sticking to it. I'm doubling down on my prediction. I think Austin Irby, true freshman, will lead this team in home runs. And, yeah, so we'll talk about the bold prediction soon.
I'm going to go Lance Williams. I mean, the pure stuff is filth. I think he's got a chance to be special, especially if he can harness it. Josh Hill says, how is the older Irby progressing? Michael Irby, we have yet to see him pitch. I know he's healthy, or at least I was told he's healthy, so I would expect to see him maybe as soon as tomorrow. Had a solid offseason, so I think we'll see him soon. JPN says, scheduling note, Coastal was at UNC before coming to Greenville this weekend, so that'll be an interesting matchup there. How do we feel about Carolina curveball having ECU ranked below Wofford? What are y'all thoughts on? Is ECU worse than Wofford?
Roll Terriers. No, I mean, look, I think a lot of what Carolina curveball is trying to accomplish is spreading the game and awareness about the teams that are playing baseball and in the Carolinas. And quite frankly, ECU did not play great baseball up until this weekend. So I think that part of that is having to prove it. And obviously, ECU talent-wise is better than Wofford. At the end of the year, they'll probably be ranked higher than Wofford. But right now, we haven't been playing like the talent that we have. So if Wofford's having a good year, I don't know what they're doing. So I don't know what their record is or anything.
I pulled it up. Wofford is 11-1.
Give it to them.
Here's who they've beaten: Ohio, Army, UNC Asheville, Davidson, and Lemoyne College.
Now, I'm surprised to see that Army was able to make it down here because they
That's
did
correct.
cancel on us. So, you know what? Give it to Wofford for beating Army and Army for backing out of the KLC.
Yeah. Any thoughts on this, Wags? You want to say something?
In Kaysen, I trust. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. And Kaysen has a panel. I mean, he's told me these power rankings are extra intense. By the way, Kaysen O'Malley will be on Hoist the Colors on Tuesday, so he can explain. I will ask him why Wofford is ranked ahead of ECU, and he can explain it. He was in Greenville this weekend, unlike Jonathan Wagner. As Kaysen continues.
What are the rankings? Let me pull the rankings
Yeah.
up, because I might have a bigger issue if there's a team in red that is ranked ahead of East Carolina.
Let's see it. Yeah, Carolina curveball. By the way, seriously though, in all seriousness, seriously, check out Carolina curveball. They are podcasting multiple times per week. They do great work. I know we like to give them crap about the rankings, and but Kaysen O'Malley, his team, hard at work and really growing. All right, so I have the rankings here. I think you do too as well, Scott.
I just looked at them. We have an NC State at 10, East Carolina 11 situation that I think we need to have a discussion about.
I think
Because
the Pirates are better than the State.
right now, ECU plays 4 teams whose RPI is 250 and higher. Only one of those teams has a worse RPI currently than North Carolina State. And that is William and Mary. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's Elon. NC State's current RPI is 262. NC State had a 5-game losing streak. They had all of these accolades coming into the season, and they have looked absolutely atrocious. And you know what? The Pirates looked pretty good this weekend. I know NC State swept Canisius, but they also blew a 10-run lead in one of those games. So I don't know. 10 and 11, maybe it could have been 10A, 10B, but I don't see NC State as currently constructed being better than East Carolina's Pirates.
Kaysen does say, trust me, my ballot had the Pirates at 7. And he probably had State at 6, but it is what it is.
And Wofford won.
All right, let's get to the week ahead, gentlemen. As Bruce Willis says, the Pack can't score without AMAC. Yeah, AMAC he's been to a lot of ECU baseball games this year, so good to see AMAC back supporting the purple and gold. The week ahead, gentlemen, Gardner-Webb. Kaysen did comment that Gardner-Webb has one of the best players in the Carolinas, Dale Francis. He hit 4 home runs against App State in a single game. He hit 5 home runs last week. He says, what would be the approach tomorrow versus Dale Francis? The approach would be to not throw him a strike unless you're up by a lot of runs, because I can't imagine Gardner-Webb has much more in the lineup. That game on Tuesday in Fayetteville, then Coastal Carolina, huge game, huge series this weekend. They are now in the top 25. We'll start with Jonathan Wagner. We'll make our prediction a little bit, but big week ahead for the Pirates. What are your thoughts on kind of the challenges ahead?
Yeah, I think, looking at a guy for Gardner-Webb, it's like I was just talking about. No free bases, no errors, no giving guys extra opportunities. And because I think that's one of those things, if you go out tomorrow and you do that and you walk a guy and then you have an error and all of a sudden you have 2 guys on for Dale Francis and boom, you're down 3-0 and you make one bad pitch and it can unravel quickly, and Coastal can score too. Coastal's a really good team this weekend. So I think it's a really important week to fix that part of your game. But yeah, it's another big week because, this, again, I still think that this team it's going to have to scrape by for everything it's going to get this season. I think it's a tournament caliber team, but when you look at it, the American's still not good. So you look at a series like Coastal, who's right now top 30 RPI, but it's a good team. They're going to stay in that range, most likely in the Sun Belt. And this is your last good weekend series RPI opportunity for the rest of the season. So it's a big one. You want to win it, especially at home. So go out. And again, it's just one of those things. Coastal's one of those teams, a lot of swagger. They always have been historically. So it's one of those things. You go out, you make a statement, you give yourself some swagger, you give yourself some confidence against a team that thinks they're going to beat you. So it's a really big week. I think it might be the most important week of the season right now. And I'm really interested to see it play out or listen to it tomorrow because it's so stupid. I could go on a rant here how we can't watch the game in Secret Stadium tomorrow in Fayetteville.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. But I do love that stadium. It will be interesting to see what the turnout is. Scott, your thoughts on the week ahead? You making any of these games?
I wish. I initially tried to plan to go to the game tomorrow, but I'm not going to be able to make it. But, the thing with Dale Francis is he is their offense right now. So don't put guys on base in front of him. And if there's a base open, don't give him a thing to hit. Then, that's a game we should win regardless. 4 home runs against App is obviously very impressive, but it's also still App. And App baseball, despite having a picturesque field, is not exactly the 75 Reds. So, but the Coastal Series is one of my favorite things that we've done in a long time with our schedule. because that is a challenge, and it'll be a challenge when we go there. And it's a team that plays with a lot of confidence. It's a program that has won a national championship, which is really cool for them. And, you know, there may be some bad blood with Colby Thorndike being there. Who knows how, his opinions of ECU baseball and the program itself. I think he'll want to play well, and I think he probably will play well. And I think that series is going to be heated. It's going to be back and forth. And if East Carolina wants a chance to host a top 8 or a top 16, really, you have to win the series. You have to put something on your resume. The American is better this year than it's been in a long time, but none of that matters if you don't have a feather in your cap like a Coastal Series win. So I think it's as big a series as we've had in a while, and I hope that the weather's good and the turnout's great because we're going to need the crowd to be there and be loud. And if you have seats in the stands and you can't go, give your tickets away or put them up on StubHub or whatever for $15 and somebody will buy them. Don't put them up there for $225. That's insane. Nobody will buy them.
Yeah. One of my neighbors, he checked the grandstand prices for the Indiana State game, and it was like $300 on StubHub. I mean, it's just insane. So let's help some people out.
I just want to say I sold my tickets for $16 for Indiana State because I'm a nice person. But I will be there this weekend on Saturday against Coastal.
Jonathan Wagner.
$4 Wags you could have had.
Yeah, you just
could have put that in
an opportunity.
Club 23 Club, and we could have kept Sean Jenkins one more year.
Blame me.
It's all Wag's fault. It always is. Damn UNC fan. He's just funding whatever the UNC baseball NIL is. Casey Romelli says Colby Thorndike Legacy Weekend. Yeah, he is at UNC, or excuse me, he's at Coastal Carolina. Gosh, that was not good. And Coastal, a couple notes on them guys. Really good. 10-2, just swept Rutgers. Their pitching coach is Matt Williams. Used to be at Liberty. Really good pitching coach. Used to be at UNCW. They will be able to pitch. And in the past, they've been more of a slugging team. This year, I think they're a lot more balanced. Opposing team only hitting 194 against them. They've given up just 6 home runs on the mound in 12 games. They are striking out just over a batter per inning. They've got 2-3 really good starters, a couple of high leverage back end arms. So different team than what we've seen in the past from Coastal, though they can hit. Caden Bodom, elite catcher, defensively, can also hit with some pop. And then obviously Colby Thorndike is hitting .333 with a .429 slug and a .417 on-base percentage for the Chanticleers thus far. And also Blake Barthol, really good infielder. So there are your Coastal Carolina discussion points. All right, bold predictions. Jonathan Wagner hit his. He called the Austin Irby home run. I called Braxton Trammell home run. He got the start, and then I said he would not get another AB the rest of the week. I don't think he did after the strikeout because he looked a little overmatched. What was yours, Scott? Do you remember?
3 guys would have over 300 batting average by the end of the week. And it
got one.
It's Dixon. John Collins is over but doesn't qualify.
Right.
And then Peltier was over on Saturday, and then his 0 for 5 Sunday took him away. And somebody else was like trending close to it. I think Irby's at 286. That's what it was. Mm-hmm. So he was, 2 hits maybe away from getting to 300. But we're
close. Close. Wags, I will give you a chance to gloat about your correct bold predictions. Since quite honestly, we suck at these, so we might as well take a moment to appreciate it.
Yeah, I think, sometimes you just got to take a step back and keep it simple, Same thing with the game of baseball. I think, especially me, I overthink my predictions sometimes. I said 1-3 on the week last week. But so, I'll get a 50% for the week and I'm okay with that. But, yeah, Austin Irby, again, I picked him to lead the team in homers preseason, and I picked him to hit his first this week, and he came in with 2. So great week for Austin Irby, and just a start for that kid. But it felt very good for me to get that because I love making bold predictions. I make bold predictions all the time because I'm a nerd and stupid. But I'm glad I didn't look stupid on that one.
We're happy for you, Wax, for not looking dumb on that one. Let's see if you can do better on your weekly prediction this week. We'll start with that. Pirates, again, Gardner-Webb, Tuesday in Fayetteville, then Coastal Carolina 3-game series. Let's go around the horn. We'll start with Wags. What do you got?
Yeah, I think, last week, like I said, I went 1-3, and I was pessimistic. And one thing I am watching this weekend against Coastal is I think ECU struggled against Carolina because they face an elite defensive catcher in Luke Stevenson. And not just defensively catching, but the way he presents the ball and frames it to the umpire behind him. And that makes the strike zone feel a lot more inconsistent at times because you can still strike with a catcher like that. Caden Bodine this weekend is just like that. He is very good. He is an elite defensive catcher. And so that's a concern, but I can't be negative 2 weeks in a row. So I think you win tomorrow against Gardner-Webb in a high-scoring game. I think I could see both teams in double digits, but I hope not. But I think ECU wins that game. I think you lose one of the Coastal games, but you win 2 out of 3. You make a statement. You start your run, and ECU goes 3-1.
Scott.
You know what? I'm going to go 1-3 because I think we're coming off an emotional win against Virginia Tech where we rallied back those second 2 games to have a good week. And I still have yet to trust us in midweek games against bad teams. We always seem to let them stay in it. And Gardner-Webb has an offense that can score runs late, and that usually gives us trouble. And I think Coastal right now is just the better team than us. They're a little bit more dynamic offensively, and they have a solid pitching staff. So, I would love to be back on the bottom next week anyway. So I'll go 1-3 and let Wags have his top spot back.
Man, I was expecting like 4-0 again. I don't know. I was just going to.
They let me down.
Yeah.
I had 4-0 last week.
Should have been.
Someone's got to fall on the sword here, and I'm glad it's not me this week.
That is true. We'll just take turns falling. Bruce Willis says 3-1. Skull says 2-2. Casey Ramaley says 4-0. The moment is too big for the Sea Chickens. JPN 1212 says 3-1. Skull says 0-4. Confirmed with Wags' prediction.
Valid point.
I'm going to go in the middle of you guys. I'm going 2-2. Yeah, part of me really wants to. I do have a feeling ECU either looks great this weekend or it's a lot like the UNC series. And I am kind of with Case and Coastal obviously really good. And look, they have played phenomenal, but they have not been in a true road environment yet. They played the Baseball at the Beach series. They played in this Jack's College Baseball Classic. I can't imagine there were too many people there. Played great competition, Alabama, Ohio State, and NC State, and won against State, and Ohio State lost to Bama. But, overall, they have been in pretty comfortable environments. This will be the opposite of that. How will they react to that? That will tell a lot. And then what does ECU learn from the UNC series? It's going to have a similar type of vibe to it, similar intensity. Do they get lost in that and the moment becomes too big for ECU, or do they learn from those moments and play better as a team? I think if they do the latter, they can win the series. But I agree with Scott. Like right now, I think Coastal is just better across the board. I hope I'm proven wrong. I think ECU wins a game, but loses 2 out of 3. I think they beat Gardner-Webb and go 2-2. So those are our predictions all across the board. Hey, the good news is nobody predicted 4-0, so that is on the table. Bold prediction for the week. Wags, you got it right, so we'll start it off with you.
Yeah, I go put Kaysen's last comment on the screen there because it's going to go along with my prediction. And again, I think this weekend is going to be a lot of emotion, a lot of tempers. They always are when Coastal's here. And I think this weekend we get our first Cliff Godwin ejection of the season. And I think it could come early in the series. I think it's going to be one of those games where Coastal is up in a tight game. And it's more of I need to give this team some energy, and Cliff's going to create it, and he's going to go get tossed. And maybe it's while they're pitching, maybe it's while they're hitting. But I think we have a Cliff ejection. I wouldn't be surprised if there's multiple ejections in total this weekend. I just think it's going to be heated. One of those weekends that we're going to be talking about for a while. So I'm excited for it. And Cliff, don't let me down. I know you're listening.
Scott, what do you got?
Well, I wore this Lou Piniella shirt because I was gonna go Cliff ejected.
Y'all can go same bowl prediction.
So I won't double it up, but I do want it to be known that this shirt was a reference to Cliff Godwin getting not only ejected but demonstrably so. So I'll go with. I think the ball's going to fly out some this weekend. I'll go with 5 different ECU players hit home runs.
All right, I like that. And I'm on the heels of that. I'm going to go with one of those players will be Michael Kalinic. He will hit his first career home run and then absolutely pimp it around the bases, therefore starting a bit of a fracas at home plate between ECU and Coastal Carolina.
In multiple directions.
Yeah, in multiple directions. So this may all hit as it'll all link together. I'm just going to keep going with the freshman home run bet like Wags and I did last week, and hopefully I hit with Kalinic this week. So there is the podcast. Man, this was a long one but a fun one. And, somebody said this podcast is long. How is it free? That's a great question. Please pay us, specifically Scott Lorbatcher and Jonathan Wagner, as they are awesome to – as they are nice enough to – dedicate their time. I can't post that last comment, Josh Hill, but I agree. I did kind of sound like that. We got to get out of here. For Scott Lorbatcher, for Jonathan Wagner, we'll be back next Monday night, 9 o'clock. We will talk to y'all then.